A $1 cup generated $80,000 in a single day during Black Friday. But here's what doesn't quite make sense. They made the free gift cheaper while raising the average order value higher, yet conversions went up and not down. I'm your host, Matt Lady. I do e-commerce marketing at Client Boost. And today I'm talking with Adam Rybeck, our Associate Director of E-commerce, also at Client Boost. He's managed 8-figure BFCM campaigns where 40% of annual revenue happens in just 48 hours. And he's breaking down the consumer psychology that makes free gifts beat bigger discounts more often than not. You're getting the exact unit economics, how a $1.16 cup increased average order value by $17, why raising the threshold from $85 to $100 for free shipping actually drove more purchases, and Adam's complete BFCM blueprint, when to start, creative volume requirements, budget guardrails, and the 3 backup plans you need before something breaks. Let's get into it. All right, Adam. Black Friday, Cyber Monday is just right around the corner, just a couple weeks away. Some brands wait to start. Some have been prepping for months and months ahead of time. When should a brand at the 7-figure, low 8-figure range actually start prepping, actually start executing and launching these sort of things?
Yeah, I like to take the Talladega Nights approach sometimes and go, if you're not first, you're last. And one of those things is with Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopping. One thing people really need to do is they need to start working on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like if you're building out a calendar, it should be starting in August. You should be working on creative by September. And if you have any edits to that creative, like that's where you're doing that in October. I know that kind of sounds insane, but it's not. And I can explain why. So like, if you say, for instance, you do emails and you're like, well, we do 1 email a week and that's 52 emails a year, right? If you get into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, that creative amount goes from what was 1 a week. So, like 12 weeks of the year, you're like, okay, cool. Last quarter's 12 weeks, no big deal. But if you're sending anywhere from 1 to 3 emails a day, which is pretty normal for a lot of like e-commerce businesses, for example, you're going to go to 90 plus emails in a very, very short period of time. And you're going to be asking yourself like, oh my gosh, did we do enough content in order to get there? Now, like I mentioned, that's just email. That doesn't take into account all the website changes that you have going on. And that doesn't account for your actual ad accounts and what creative you want to use there. So like, if you're thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday from like an e-commerce marketing perspective, you need to be working 3 months ahead of November because you want to make sure that you have everything ready for that one blip of a moment in time where you're like, all your creative is going to come to a head and you're going to need everything in order to make sure that it works. So I know that sounds insane, but it's really not. Like you really want to make sure that you have that ad creative like kind of as a backup because you're not going to be 100% certain what works. And when you're testing these things in real time, you're going to be changing your budgets daily. You're going to be changing your creative like every day, or if not every 2 days, you're going to be putting things in learning patterns that haven't necessarily been tested previously. Like you only have the previous year to go off of. So realistically, you want to keep it focused in on like, what are we doing in 2025 to make sure we have the best possible Black Friday plan, like way ahead of a schedule.
Sweet. No, that's super helpful. Quick follow-up on that is brands often put so much emphasis on this creative. Should we keep our evergreen campaigns on or off? They have a lot of data. They have a lot of spend. Should we keep them on or should we just only go to the Black Friday creative?
Yeah, there's a lot of thought processes around this. What I would say is if you want to succeed during Black Friday, do both. Have your creative that's evergreen working along with the new ads that you're putting in there. And if you're just building off of your original campaign, then you're already having at least some historical data while you're adding on new ad sets or ad groups or however you're building out your campaign. So in a way, you're making sure that you're kind of hedging your bets. I know that sounds kind of like a hedge answer, but in actuality, you really do want to have some of the historical data going along with the stuff that's already working because you don't want to be in and out of learning processes constantly, just adding new asset groups and asset types all the time. Like you want to get into a place where you're like, if the algo feels comfortable with the things that you're putting in there, and it's not like a shock to the system when you adjust your budget by 20 to 30% on any given day.
That one's always a tricky one. So in terms of the actual offer, the discount, the bundle, whatever the brands end up deciding, how would we advise them they think through that? How do brands make sure that they protect not only their revenue, but their profit during this time?
So that's actually a conversation that I have with a lot of different businesses, and it comes down to understanding, unit economics. Like if you understand the unit economics of the business, you should be able to figure out what your profitability should be. And I think I'll just say this, most businesses have a silver bullet efficiency number. They're like, we want a 5 ROAS. And you go, okay, what does that mean in terms of profit margin? So if you take ROAS and you convert it to ACoS, right? You're looking at a 20% ACoS. So that means your advertising cost to spend 20%. That's 20% that comes out of the margin of your sale price. So if your margins were already at 40%, if it costs 20% to acquire a product, that means you have 20% left for EBIT, right? And if you're working through that math, you come to your senses and be like, all right, maybe that number doesn't work during this period of time, or maybe it works even better. And so some clients that I've had, or even some businesses I've worked for in the past, have normally on average had like a 5 ROAS goal, but during Black Friday, their actual goal is much higher. It's like a 7 to 8 ROAS. And so there's ways that you can work on that from both sides. You can either do a 20% discount, and then also hopefully increase your ROAS number, or ACoS number. You can increase or decrease that efficiency by 20% so that you're offsetting the cost of what it's costing your business so that you're not at a loss. So you can't keep the same efficiency number with a 25% discount, because you're going to be quickly into the red, and you don't want to be there on Black Friday. That's the whole point of Black Friday, is you want to be in the black. So that's how you get there, is you're not just, selling stuff that has been sitting on the cabinets for, on the warehouse shelves for, however many months. It's about like making your profit all like towards back the end, at the end of the year during this one holiday. And so if you think about it from the financial perspective, that's kind of what you'll always come back to. But I find that like when you're working with a business, if you can explain to them, this is your silver bullet efficiency number, this is what our marketing efficiency number is, if they can get on board with that, realistically, you're only looking ahead, you're not looking behind. You're saying, what can we get for this very short period of time, and not just try to blow out the budget? Because I think every person during Black Friday has gone through like the fire drills of being like, no, the budgets are up and the sales are down. And it's like, well, there's this huge attribution lag window. There's a lot of other reasonings for why that may not look exactly right. And then by the time you get to Monday, or, let's say Friday of the next week, it's like the numbers that you were looking at in real time are no longer real. And so it's like, oh, okay. So actually we were super efficient during that time. A lot of the conversions came in later because of attribution lag. And now we're at a place where we're actually like way beating the efficiency, and we should have spent more budget during that period of time. So it really just depends on the business. My mentor always said to me, if you've seen one business, you've seen just one business. And I think that as long as you understand the goals of what that business are, and then you can bring in the marketing efficiency numbers for that, you're going to have a good time during Black Friday comparatively to someone who is not prepared for that.
Quick little add on there. I agree. It's all about the unit economics. There's other ways to manipulate that in terms of, hey, let's try to increase our average order value because you're having the discount. So you need more gross dollars because you're discounting, and then you're going to end up with more profit dollars. So if you normally sell 1 or 2 SKUs and your average order value during this holiday period is a few more items, you're going to end up with more profit at the end of it. So that's another way to offset while you're adjusting your marketing efficiency numbers. So I just want to
And just to add on to that, I would say that a lot of businesses, they either, like, if they're doing Black Friday the right way, they're building holiday bundle packages so that it's easy for people to come in and see a merchandise landing page for a category that says like, cool, everything that you need to buy is right here. You don't want someone scrolling through 35, 65 different options. You want them to see like, this is what you should buy for your friend, mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever, yourself, like whatever deal it is. Like, you're like, I want you to see this right here. I don't want to have you look for it. It should be front and center. And so kind of dumbing down what you're doing during Black Friday is a huge help to a lot of businesses. And it makes sense too, because you're like, I want them to come to my site. I want them to understand everything that they need to see. So just the main thing. And I want them to be able to get it quickly, because I want to cut down on the time that they have to spend looking for other gifts. If they're thinking about your product versus another product, you already have a problem, because someone might be offering a better deal. Someone might be offering a better shipping window. Someone might be offering all those things. And so when you're looking at your competitors and you're looking at yourself, you have to ask yourself, does my bundle, or does my product, does it compare to what everybody else is getting? And is it such a surefire bet that like, no matter what they do, they come in, they see it, they buy it? Like, you're Ariana Grande, I see it, I want it, I got it. Like, that's exactly what you want for their situation to be when they come into your store.
That was fire. I wasn't expecting that line right there, but that was really helpful. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
in terms of the budget, you have your overall spend budget, but then now we kind of go into the platforms, the channels here. Most D2C brands early on are on Meta and or Google, usually both. Talk me through how to generally allocate that budget between these channels during this window of time.
So let's say that you're a brand that already has a breakdown between your platforms as like 65% towards Meta and 35% towards Google. Now, the strategy that you're going to want to take, or at least one that's really worked well for me, is actually focusing higher on consideration non-brand terms. Anytime someone's looking at like, what is the best gift for this enter situation scenario here? And if your product works for that, or even if it works for like, what is the best TV to buy during Black Friday? Those are the types of terms where people are asking, how do you do this? What is the best thing here? You really want to focus on those. And I would say that if you have a good non-brand search term, let's say you have a campaign that's working towards those end goals, that consideration early on is so much better to have than just kind of like keeping the structure the same because of that's what we've always done. That's a killer to most businesses. So like if you're working on non-brand search term, like if you're working on those early, like let's say throughout the month of November, and then you get to Black Friday and you're like, boom, I'm going to hit you again with every retargeting of all the things that you've looked at from Meta's side. And now we're going to focus on the imagery aspect. Like you came to the site, you saw what you wanted to see. Now we're in that 7 to let's say 14-day window of consideration. Let's get them in. They want to see it. They want to buy it. Like let's get them to convert as quickly as possible during that period of time. So let's only send them stuff that are our hero bundle SKUs rather than focusing on whatever our hero SKU was previously that wasn't necessarily a bundle. And I think people want to see what they can get from a value perspective. So as long as that bundle has a lot of different value, or the customer or client feels like they're getting something extra for shopping right now, that urgency consideration is massive for e-commerce brands. If they don't have it, people are not going to buy because again, everyone's doing 20% off or 25% off. Like, how do you compete with them? You've got to have something distinct to your brand that works for your brand that you know is going to convert during that short window of time from the 1 week before Black Friday to 2 weeks after Black Friday when all your holiday shopping is done.
Or kind of retouching on the offer architecture. Mm-hmm. We had one really good case study of like this average order value is up $17, conversions are up to 10%. I would love a little bit of advice and guidance and insight onto the free gifts versus percentage off versus bundle. I know we talked about the unit economics and like that side of things, but like one layer deeper of like the actual offer construction, and would love to kind of help brands decide how to do this.
Yeah, I actually love this question so much because there's so many examples that I've had, at least in my career, where I've seen some of the strangest things work in ways you would never expect. And for example, one example would be we had this one business that I worked with that offered a free gift with purchase. And the original gift that we gave them was like, it cost, I think, the business around $6. And that's not great to give it away for free. But when we started seeing huge increased volume, like an extra 25% over what our previous year was, we were like, shoot, I don't know if we're going to have enough of that product to get through the holiday. What are we going to do? And so my solution was, do we have any other products that are kind of branded that we could use that are like, let's say they cost less to the business? And we found one. And it was like, I think it was like $1.16 for us to produce internally. And it was just a branded, like, I think it was like a cup or something. And the funny thing is like, how do we get people to buy this like more so than they were buying the previous thing where they were getting it for a lesser dollar amount? Well, we were like, hey, the current free gift is actually any order over $85. So if our new order like value, let's say, like, let's change it from 85 to 100. That seems like we're going to, increase, we're going to see decreases in conversion possibly, or we're not going to see the same average order value because people are going to be like, I'm not getting that free gift that I wanted. It actually turned out during that period of time that we saw an increase of not $15 to like from the 85 to $100 was actually a $17 increase. Interestingly enough, during that period of time, if you had told me at the beginning of Black Friday that we could increase our average order value by $17 and you times that by by 5,000 purchases, that's an increase of $80,000 in incremental revenue that you just created out of thin air. And I think that businesses don't necessarily think about free gifts as something that does that, but people really want free stuff. Everybody likes it. And I think that like you can do as many discounts on this, that, or the other thing that someone's been looking at for forever and hasn't necessarily bought. Those are your people that are like, they've seen your site back in August and they've been thinking about buying it. And they're like, I'm going to hold off until Black Friday. And a lot of people, whether they're hurting financially or they're not necessarily in that consideration bucket, they will wait to get that 20% off deal. But when you introduce a new holiday bundle or an extra on top of this, you get, Y, people are excited to get that kind of offer. And I've actually seen, like, again, $80,000 in one day of incremental revenue. You'd be like, sign me up. That's just increased our average order value by so much. The unit economics changed massively. And all because I was adding a cup that cost $1.16 to us on top of what they normally got. And I think that, like, we thought originally that it was going to slow purchases down. It didn't. Like, it just increased our average order value. We could not believe it. We're like, all right, maybe it'll slow down. Our production can get back up online and we can kind of go from there. That didn't happen. It actually increased conversions, actually increased our over average order value. And they saw like this huge Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And if you're a business that does 40% of your overall revenue in 2 days, or even like, let's say a week, say 2 weeks after Black Friday or something, you have like 33% or 40% of your revenue for the year comes in between that period of time. That's a massive increase, and it's a big change to your unit economics from a business standpoint.
Yeah. I think that one consumer psychology thing is just people want to get more free stuff. That's why free works. Than, oh, I saved an extra few dollars. It's not, oh, I got more. I'm going to buy anyway. I'm going to get more for my dollar versus, well, I'm going to spend less. So that might
If
be
you had two
one.
competing, if you were a business that had two competing offers for the same type of product, but one offered you a free hat on top of whatever you got, you'd be hard pressed if you were a person that was in that consideration bucket to find somebody that'd be like, actually, I'll take the other product because I think it might be better quality than this other product that I haven't got, which seems like it's the same quality, but they're offering me a hat. You'd be hard pressed to see someone go in a different direction. They're going to get the free hat. That's what they're going to be like, yeah, I'm now a brand advocate. You just turned them from a person that was in a consideration bracket and you've put them into the evangelist bracket. They're like, now you're wearing my hat. Now you're going around the city. Now people see you in my hat. Now people want to buy the same product again. It's like, that marketing goes a long way in the long term, and that's like the perspective you have to have as a business owner.
Yeah. You're gaining a $30 hat for free.
Yeah.
Versus I'm saving an extra $10. Like,
exactly.
That's a huge part of it as well. So awesome. Okay. Moving back to the creative. Sometimes the evergreen stuff ends up winning out. Sometimes the new Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff works right away. Sometimes it fatigues before the end of the weekend. I would love to provide a little bit of guidance, advice on how much creative volume, how many new assets, variants, how much budget should these brands be putting towards this net new creative production on the Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of creative.
So again, if you're a business that does 30 to 40% of your business within like the holiday period, I can't push hard enough on the amount of creative that you're going to need. And again, it's not just based off of your offer bundles. Like, people order based off of vibes during Black Friday. Their consideration shopping is everywhere. If you go on an Amazon, like for instance, everybody on the planet like feels like they use Amazon for something or another. They go on there and they see, here's like 28 trending things. Like, were you looking for an ice maker, Matt? Because you might be buying one even though you don't need one, but you could find one there, and that's the whole point. It's like people are buying things that they don't need, but they're not even considering. And so it's like, once you have somebody that's in that bucket of like, hey, we want you to see kind of our best stuff, you want to make sure that that vibe is right when they're coming to your website, that they feel like that they're getting something that's a luxury quality product that they need, and they never thought that they needed. And they're like, you know what? I've never bought that backpack before. I've never bought that ring before. I've never bought this thing before, but I now feel like I need to have it, and it's 25% off. And they feel like, I'm losing money if I don't take this deal. And so if your creative is at a place where you can back up that feeling where it's like, man, this is such a cool brand, I would like to be a part of their brand, I associate myself with that part of the brand, that is what I'm looking for. So like, anytime I see a business with like a creative package or something where they can kind of focus in on what do we need to do creative wise in order to succeed during this time frame, I would always say invest in the vibe of your business and make sure that people understand that, and have to test that out throughout the year to make sure that you understand what your vibe is and what people get out of it. Because when they come to your site on Black Friday, they're going to be like, cool, this is cool. I want this because it's so cool. And I'm cool. So by association, now we have all the things that we need in order to have a great Black Friday. So as a business owner, I know it's hard to say it works off vibes, but a lot of times it works off vibes.
The vibe marketing. The phrase I like to say, whether it's true or not, is half art, half science, and half math.
Yep.
Obviously, that's three halves, and that's kind of the joke that goes along with the creative you're just talking about. So that's helpful. You mentioned the attribution lag and overspending, underspending based on when the actual purchases and revenue comes in. How this might be agency listening to this, might be a brand, either side of the coin here. You've been on both sides as well. How do we manage that communication, expectation setting? What do we communicate ahead of time to avoid the fire drill during the weekend and people freaking out? What's the game? How do you game plan ahead of time for that attribution side of things?
I can't tell you how many calls that I've gotten throughout Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I've gotten calls on Christmas, the day before Christmas. I've gotten calls throughout the holidays at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I can just tell you that if you are a marketer that's been in those situations, then you know, and you should already kind of have a plan to kind of curtail this. But I would say from a budget perspective, if you are focused on attribution lag, I would do a quick case study on your own historical data. And I would say, like, if you could go back in time and kind of figure out directionally, and I use this phrase a lot, but if you're not 100% accurate, at least be directionally correct and say, well, last year, our ROAS increased from 4.5 to a 7.8 during this period of time. If you're expecting a bump of three ROAS plus from the efficiency side, and you're kind of running similar campaigns, and a lot of people during Black Friday, a lot of businesses, they want to kind of run what they know has worked, then you can also expect that attribution lag to kind of be there. So a lot of it's historical data. If you go back in time through like your Google Ads account or through Meta ads, you're going to see an attribution that's now fully realized over that course of those days. But if you are meticulous about how you're going through. If you went through, like on Friday last year, we ended the day at a 4.5 ROAS, but when I look back at it a month later or a few weeks later, it was at a 7.8. You'll know, like, okay, the delta between these is this. And if you can do that on an average for a 4-day window, it's not a lot of work. And I know that if you don't have that information, you don't have that information. But I would say is that if you did have that information, it's something to keep track of, because if you know that you're going to expect a higher amount, that means that when you're getting at the end of the day and you get that call at 12 o'clock midnight, hey, it looks like our numbers were down. We were only at a 4.5 and we were expecting a 7.8. That's the type of situation you could be like, hey, let's keep calm and carry on here. Let's not worry about this. I'll bring up that meme from 2014, but it's like, the idea is that you want to stay calm in those situations and have a plan. And your plan should be like, hey, if we feel good about where we were at last year after the attribution lag, we should feel good about where we're at this year. And if you're not 100% sure, I would say that there's a lot of programs out there now, like Triple Whale, not giving them just a free shout out, but I will say that for an example, like they do a really good job with attribution and like where it's at. So if you're a company that uses them, you could use that kind of like, I guess, day party attribution to figure out whether your paid or your organic is working in the ways that you want it to. And I would say that like you're probably going to see over the course of those days, like it shifted dramatically over that time period. So be prepared, have a plan, make sure you know what your previous year was, and make sure that you're ready to go with a response if you get that call at 12 o'clock midnight, like I have many times in my career.
Yeah. So if you are able to do the historical data and research analysis, and I'm trying to get people to, hey, let's try to avoid that 1 a.m. call. Like, let's set expectations ahead of time. It's not just, hey, client or brand is talking to the agency. Either way, this is how we're going to prepare. This is what's going to happen. We've been through this before. This is what happened last year. Remember, and like just re-communicating, because they have everything else going on between their inventory, the fulfillment, they're scaling up their customer service teams. Like they have a lot of other things going on that your growth and marketing is not touching. Just like communicate ahead of time to try to avoid the morning of, night of comms there. So
that's a great point. I would say that it doesn't always work that way that you'd like it to, but you really want people to know as a marketer that you've got it and you have a plan. And so as long as you feel that you are structured and you explain, like you said, that you are structured, I think most businesses are like ready to prepare. And again, as a general rule, I try not to budget set more than 20 to 30% a day where I'm like readjusting like plus 50%, plus 100%, because that's when you're going to start seeing those, diminishing returns where the business is not fully realizing the actual gains of the business, because you're so focused on one number being like, oh, we're way over. It's like, great, that's 20% to 30% today. And I know that sounds like, well, hey, I don't want to reset all my stuff, but I also don't want to lose the learning that we've had where this is working, and we're going to just upset the apple cart because we think we can get even extra out of it. Like, great, we didn't start where we needed to, but if we continue to increase this throughout the day, like try to have your budget set in a place where you feel like, if I updated this by 30%, that's my max. And if I had to downgrade this by 30%, that's my minimum. And if you have that kind of window in there, make sure that your budget is like kind of set up for success there. That's kind of my operating guardrail for that.
Yeah, that's really helpful on the intraday perspective and for the 4-day window. If a brand launches their offer early, and I think more and more
Mhm.
brands are starting to do this, that gives you actually more time to scale up and down the budget and get a sense of reaction to the offer. You have more you have more time to analyze and understand how the bidding and the creative and all these is affecting the auction. So launching early, maybe it may be helpful for more things than you realize.
And if you have a VIP audience, what you can do is work with your new creative assets towards them first to be like, hey, early Black Friday shoppers, VIP, target only them, target nobody else. Like make sure that your data is pretty structured out there. But if you have that group of people, that is a great place to test like 2-3 weeks out, like which of your Black Friday creatives are going to work best because you're like, hey, you guys are my VIP early access people. You're seeing this before anybody else. Like you can get this right now, but it's only you, and they feel special. But at the same time, you're using that to test your creative. You're using that to ramp up your images so that like maybe not historically like Meta or Google will know exactly what it is, but like you'll feel more directionally correct with that because you're like, all right, we saw this 2 weeks ago. This worked with our early access VIP users, and we think that it's going to continue to work throughout Black Friday with all of our new top of funnel conversions that we're expecting from these people that are considering the budgets here. So
Nice. I think that's perfect for that one. Good wrap up. The couple more here is in terms of more of how do I want to phrase this? Cautionary tales. You hear about the good wins and excitement and success and scaling for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If this is the first time a brand they've scaled over the last few years and they're getting to like that 8-figure range now, that 30-40% of revenue is several $1,000,000. So it's adding up. There's this new territory they haven't been before. What have you seen, or what would you advise brands to be on the lookout for outside of just the ad account stuff that where the marketers are in control of and managing? Like what else breaks once this volume starts to ramp up?
I think pricing breaks because if you're getting that's like the number one thing that I've seen people get really up like consumers get really upset with pricing when it's not at a level that they like. And also pricing gets kind of difficult when it comes to manufacturing. So if you're creating your own products or if you are 3P selling your own products, you're in two completely separate subgroups, right? Like these are two different businesses with two completely different goals. But if you manufacture your own products, you may be running behind in production even if you ramped up, like let's say, you increase your employees by, like 100 people, and you're like, I think this will account for the 30% growth that we're expecting this year over year. Awesome. But if you're any higher than that, like at 50%, I've had businesses where we've had to increase pricing to slow users down. And again, like I mentioned, the average order value going up and us being like, okay, well, can we slow it down even further? Because our production team's not able to keep up with this. But the same thing goes from like third party sellers in a different way. If you're a third party seller and you're having problems keeping up with production or you're not getting products out to people in the right amount of time, sometimes the value of the relationships that you're creating during the Black Friday, Cyber Monday window are invaluable. It's not about the first conversion they have for some brands. Like if you know, hey, look, we are a luxury brand, people are going to come back to us if they like the product. If it gets there all dinged up, or if it's, not in a good place or took too long or they didn't get it before Christmas or any of those types of things. Those are things that you have to consider as a brand. And that's really what breaks is those customer service feedback loops that you have to kind of go through from a delivery side. Like, are they getting the things they need? Was it in the status that they wanted it to be in? Is the consumer ultimately having a good experience with your brand? And I'll tell you that brands think about them. But when that process breaks down, where you have 6,000 tickets in a day comparatively to 100, like you're just not ready to build like for volume for that. And even if you're a business that's ready and feels prepared, like there are years where you will not be prepared, where things will be doing way better than you expected. And there's nothing you can really do to stop that. And you have to be like, okay, we can't bandage or triage every area. What can go first? And what I would say is like, sometimes people think that they understand their pricing the best. And I will just tell you that there are times when it's like people would actually pay 20% more for this product, but you just don't know that. And so even though everyone's focused on the discounts, what I would say is that I've had years where we've had to look at the internal structure of our pricing and be like, we can't keep up with production. Can we increase pricing by 20%? And that sounds insane, but it's like, look, we don't want to sacrifice all of our quality to have like a product that we know is going to be great in the hands of the user and that they're going to come back 3 more times this year because their annual lifetime value is four, is on a pace for four purchases a year. I don't want to sacrifice that in order to just gain one customer today that we have just this one time that doesn't like our product after, that period of time passes. It's like you really want people to have a good thing. And I would just say that that's the type of stuff that you'll see breakdown for, I think, anybody that's worked as an e-commerce marketer has seen this during this period of time, or maybe you've been lucky and you haven't had these experiences. But I'd say that it's the types of breakdowns that you see internally, structures that you haven't been willing to change for years, or things that you're not expecting to happen. And you just have to be able to pivot quickly and be able to do that in a way that like updates your pricing all at once, or updates your marketing all at once, or make sure that your feeds are working. We had feeds go down one time during Black Friday, massive loss. And it was like, we've got to get these things back up and running. And it was because of some, Google Merchant Center issue that like wasn't resolved. And I had to spend I think 12 hours one time just working on recategorizing some of our stuff. And I was up until 5 in the morning doing it. And I remember it's like, hey, this is what you need to do in order to get to that 40% growth during the year. And I remember the bonus was awesome, but at the same time, like it took a lot of grit in order to get through those. And so like marketers may not be, thinking about Thanksgiving and being like, you know what, I can't wait for tomorrow, is having to spend 12 hours doing some spreadsheets, on the, Google Merchant Center because they're not expecting it. And so I would just say, if you're prepared to do all this, you're in the right place. If you're not prepared, like be ready to have every process that you have, every system that you've built. I want all your structures going to break. Build redundancy plans for those things now, so you don't have to deal with them. The next year after the instance I just gave you, it was much better. We didn't have that same problem, but we were ready and prepared because it was already built out. Like, we're not going to have that same problem next year. It won't happen.
Yeah, really important to kind of do the post mortem once things calm down and die down, kind of take what worked, what didn't, learn from it, and kind of document that, or take a quick note, something right after, because a year from now, the big thing you'll probably remember, but all this medium and small things that do add up, you may have forgotten, or you have a different agency, or you have a different VP of growth, and kind of lose those learnings over time.
100%.
Yeah, I think last question here, I think kind of touched on this a bit already. It's a few days away from Black Friday, depending on when you're listening to this. What are like the 3 small, quick next steps you would advise someone to do if they're still kind of finalizing Black Friday? If they're not fully dialed in, what are the 3 like things you would want them to kind of work on and focus on?
Prepare for the worst. Ensure that you have backup plans for all of your creatives, and especially for all of your call to actions. If your CTAs aren't right, you're going to see a problem almost immediately. And having a diversification of CTAs like ready to go, that you're like, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this other thing will work. Having those ready is key. And I would also say revise your schedule for anything that you have planning on going out, and double check to make sure that that part works. I've worked on websites where, we plan to have a new banner go out on a certain day, and then it doesn't load correctly, or it does load, but it's with the wrong image or with the wrong setup. And it's like that kind of thing happens all the time. And you really can't afford to have those types of things happen, because I'll tell you that we've had banners even on the website where, when it was off by like had the wrong call to action, or was off by any amount, like we would see huge conversion percentages drop during those hours. And we're basically doing day parting. You're like looking at the conversion rate by hour to see whether or not like you're going up or down based off of the changes you made. And I would say that if you have built in your redundancies there, you have the content, you have the call to actions that are right, then you'll be able to swap those out if you're not seeing the growth that you want to during that period of time. And if you're building out correctly, you should be able to have like the right response to the right issue when it arises. And I know that that's a tough place to be, but it's always good to have those redundancies set up ahead of time, so that you're not sitting there on Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, like focused in on this rather than spending time with your family outside doing the things that you want to do, going to see a movie or something. So
Awesome. Yeah, super helpful. Thanks for the time, Adam. Everyone else, happy Q4, happy Black Friday. May the odds forever be in your favor.
let's go, guys.
Take care. Enjoy.
Yeah, take it easy.
So that's it. That's all. Start your BFCM planning early as August. Make sure you got your inventory, your forecast all in order. Build creative redundancy into your email campaigns, your ad creative, and even your landing pages. And remember that a free gift can outperform a steeper discount. The unit economics matter more than the hype. Make sure you do the math. Huge thanks to Adam from our team at Client Boost for breaking down the exact playbook he's used to manage campaigns for over a decade, especially where nearly half the annual revenue for a brand happens in a single weekend, that 4-day BFCM window. Please leave me your feedback, what topics you want to see more of. If you're interested in being a guest of the show or know someone you want to recommend to dive deep and narrow on a subtopic in e-commerce for 7 and 8-figure brands, hit me up. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next one.